Let's dive into the deep psychological effects of growing up in a home where those three little words, I love you, were just never said. It's something that can shape a person in ways they might not even realize until much, much later. Now, that sounds totally backward, right? I mean, why would love, the one thing we're all supposed to be searching for, feel like a threat? Well, that's the big puzzle we're going to piece together today. And the answer, it tells us so much about how we're wired for connection. To really get this, we have to start with something that psychologists sometimes call the invisible wound. And what's so tricky about it is that it's not about something bad that happened to you, but about something important that didn't happen for you. Okay, so the official term for this is childhood emotional neglect, or CEN. And it's so important to get this. We're not talking about abuse here. This is about a consistent absence of something. It's when a parent gives you everything you need to survive, food, a roof over your head, all of that, but they just fail to notice or respond to or validate what you're feeling on the inside. And this is where that difference becomes crystal clear. Abuse is the presence of harm, right? Like being shamed or made fun of. But neglect, that's the absence of support. It's like you're emotionally invisible. And because you can't see it, it can happen in families that, from the outside, look totally fine, even loving. So why does this happen? Well, it's almost never about a parent not actually loving their child. A lot of the time, they just don't have the emotional tools. Maybe their own parents never said it, so it feels weird. Or maybe, for them, saying those words feels way too vulnerable, almost scary. This isn't about placing blame, it's about understanding a cycle. Now, let's look at how these early experiences start to build something much, much bigger. They don't just disappear. Instead, they create this deep subconscious map that ends up guiding all of our relationships later in life. Psychologists call it an internal working model, but a much easier way to think about it is like a blueprint for love. It gets built when you're a kid, and it basically sets your expectations for intimacy. Is it safe? Can I count on people? Are they going to be there for me when I need them? And here's pretty much how that blueprint gets drawn up. A child feels sad or scared and needs comfort. The caregiver doesn't really respond. So the child learns a tough lesson. My feelings don't really matter. Or maybe counting on someone just leads to disappointment. Now imagine that happening thousands of times, over and over. That's how the blueprint gets set in stone. Closeness starts to feel like a risk. So we have the theory, but what does a person with this kind of blueprint actually look like day to day? Let's talk about some of the really common ways this stuff starts to show up in adulthood. It all really starts from the inside. The first, and maybe the deepest, impact is on how a person fundamentally sees themselves. If you never got that verbal confirmation that you were loved just for being you, it can lead to some really deep-seated low self-esteem. You might constantly look for validation from other people. A lot of people become perfectionists, operating on this subconscious belief that if they can just do everything perfectly, then they will finally earn the love that wasn't just given to them freely. This quote from Dr. Gail McBride just nails it. A little kid's brain isn't developed enough to think, oh, my parents are just emotionally constipated. No way. Instead, their brain goes right to, there must be something wrong with me. I'm the problem. And that belief, it gets carried right on into their adult life. And of course, that internal feeling that something's wrong with you is going to have a massive effect on how you connect, or maybe fail to connect with other people. So, if your internal blueprint says that intimacy is dangerous, you're going to have a really hard time trusting a partner. You might pull away or shut down when someone gets too close because that feeling of closeness sets off a primal alarm bell in your brain. And that's exactly why receiving love can feel more threatening than not having it. The absence is familiar territory. The presence feels like a trap. But this story is not just about the wound, I promise. There's another side to this, a side that involves incredible strength and, thankfully, the real possibility of healing. And the research on this is pretty clear. There was a big study that found adults who remembered their parents being really warm and affectionate were over 1.3 times more likely to be flourishing in their life later on. That early emotional foundation, it really, really matters.
But what about all the people who didn't get that? Well, it turns out that growing up this way can forge a really unexpected and, honestly, a powerful kind of strength.
And this quote just highlights the whole paradox of it. When you've had to be your own cheerleader your whole life, when you've learned how to pick yourself back up with nobody telling you that you can do it, you build what one source calls extraordinary resilience.
In a weird way, that resilience can become your superpower.
So this all leaves us with a really powerful question to think about for ourselves. We all have a blueprint for love, and it was built from our earliest days. The real work, the important work, is taking a good, honest look at it, seeing how it guides our choices, and then deciding if maybe, just maybe, it's time to start drawing a new one. And this brilliantly illustrates the foundation of so much of our adult psychology. To keep exploring topics like this, make sure to subscribe, my channel like, and share your thoughts in the comments below.